Hi, just a quick update about my life 1 month after getting myself a flip phone. So a little background information, I got myself a flip phone to help me break my smartphone addiction. Now, the amount that I use my smartphone might not have seemed like a big deal to a lot of people, but it was more than I wanted to use it, and it was definitely like affecting my mental health if nothing else, probably my productivity too, although I was using my phone for a lot of work things, so maybe it was helping with my productivity, but you know, it's a lot of distractions on there as well as things that I can do for work. And I think the worst part was that I was just using it like a lot. Like I would come home and I'd be like, great, now I can check Instagram, I can play games, I can relax, I can text everyone. Just became something that I was spending a lot of my life doing. And it wasn't so much, it didn't feel like it was a problem for my life because I was using it to organize a lot of my life and live a lot of my life, like with researching and communicating, organizing things with people, learning things. So it actually was a tool that I was using in my work life and in my personal life, as well as a tool that I was using for relaxation. I didn't actually feel like the smartphone use itself was a problem. After I got my smartphone back in 2010, within 6 months my eyesight had started to degrade and I needed glasses full time, which before then I didn't. And since then my eyesight's been getting worse and worse and worse, and so I finally decided it's time to do something about it. And a very big part of what I'm using for close-up work is a phone. I'm using a phone for many hours a day, so that's a lot of close-up work, not good for the old eyesight. Even though it would be great to get 20/20 vision in 2020, it's a great little catchphrase, I don't think it's going to go that quickly, but it's still a great year to make some really firm progress. So I decided it's time to do something dramatic if I'm serious about this, so I got rid of my smartphone and I now have this little flip phone. Okay, so that's not really true. Full disclosure, I did not get rid of my smartphone. I still have my smartphone, I just use it as an iPod, which you might know if you've watched some of my other videos in my EndMyopia video list or my smartphone video list. I use it as an iPod, so I listen to Spotify or my audiobooks on it in the car, and I also use it for listening to like my morning meditation via my Calm app, and I still carry it around so that I can look up my contacts because I haven't transferred all my contacts to this phone. It's just too big of a job. So slowly as I need to use them, they're getting transferred, but I kind of need it as a little electronic address book. But it's not something that I'm using tons. It doesn't have a SIM card in it, so I can't make calls, I don't receive texts, and when I'm out in public, I don't really have just free access to data all the time. Not free, you pay for that. But at home and at work as well, and in a lot of like city spaces, I do actually have access to Wi-Fi, which, you know, could be really handy in a pinch if I need to look up Google Maps to find out where I'm going or something. But on the whole, it's not a temptation anymore, because when I feel that urge to, oh, I'll just check my phone, I check this and, oh look, no messages. Well, that's that. Whereas on my smartphone, I would have used it to just quickly check, and I would have had all these notifications from all these different apps, and then I would have quickly checked Instagram and maybe quickly checked Facebook, and one thing would have turned into another, and 10 minutes would have turned into an hour. Another thing I still use my smartphone for is as a camera right now. So my smartphone use has gone down from like, okay, so a good day probably would have been 3.5 hours of screen time, but easily 5.5 hours. I've even seen 6. And that's not all just procrastinating. A lot of that, as I've said already, is like for actually legitimate purposes. I was using it as a very diverse, very useful tool for a lot of things. But that amount of time of up close vision, like of course my eyesight was deteriorating. Like 5 hours a day of like looking here, of course it's not gonna be good for my eyesight. So that number has now gone down to, it's pretty normal to have a half-hour day, but I have had as much still as 2 hours and a quarter since getting my flip phone, but that is still down dramatically. And really, when I look at it, when I look at what apps I'm using that is taking up so much time, like half of it's camera. Like right now recording, this is going to take a while. So I'm not really looking at a phone screen about 30 centimeters away from my face. I'm just casually looking at this thing, which is probably closer to 60 or 70 centimeters away from me. And in fact, it's doing more looking at me than I am at it. So it doesn't even really count as screen time. I think even though I still have a smartphone and I still have it attached to my Wi-Fi when I'm at home, so I can still potentially be in temptation's way, I'm not, because as I mentioned, like the urge to check my phone takes me to this phone, and if I do turn on my other phone, my smartphone, I've implemented all those tips that I gave in my other video about tips to break your smartphone addiction. Like, my screen is black and white, there are not icons on it, there's no notifications coming up, like it is not exciting. When I do look at it, I don't feel, ooh, attractive. Like, it's just, oh yeah, it's a tool, it's boring. It's 1 month in. How am I finding this shift? Now, to look at it objectively, we've got those numbers that are in. My screen time is down. And also another objective measurement is my eyesight distance to blur. So how far I can see before it gets blurry. But I'll add that at the end so that I can like do a little bit of an EndMyopia summary. But in general, other things, like you'd think after having such intense phone use that to have gotten rid of that experience, like that it would be a huge dramatic adjustment and I'd be saying, wow, the difference is incredible. But actually, it's incredible how much humans can adjust to situations, because using my phone for that many hours a day, like I don't even remember actually. This is my new normal and it feels like it's always been this way. Like, I've forgotten. It's quite hard to contrast therefore, because back then that amount of screen time felt normal and fine. And now this amount of screen time feels normal and fine. No dramatic change there, except, you know, the actual objective situation that I'm in has changed a lot. I'm noticing that now my phone feels like an intrusion in my life. So if I get a text message, I'm like, what now? And I'll go look at it. And also just replying with these buttons, I'm like, I don't want to reply, that's so tedious. So I'll make a reply and then I don't want to stimulate, oh, dropped it. I don't really like stimulate conversation via phone and text message anymore. So I'm not like texting back and forth as much as I used to. My phone calling for my attention now feels like an interruption in my life. Whereas before, being on my phone was a very big part of my life. And as I've said, I don't feel guilty about that. I don't feel like I was wasting 6 hours of my day every day. I was using it as a tool. And so I was like cultivating relationships, organizing events, planning things, learning things, researching things, teeing up things, communicating. Like, it was a really important tool in my life to get things done. So my smartphone was a door into a whole nother realm of my life, which was sometimes procrastinating, but also sometimes highly productive. And now my phone is not a door into a whole nother part of my life. It is now something that kind of intrudes on my life, which I think is a really good sign, because it means that I'm living my life in the present a lot more and being here, being present to the people around me, to the things I'm doing, just to the world in general, to myself even. The only apps that I've really missed having at my fingertips are Google Maps, which, you know, it is available on this little phone. It's there. It's so tedious to use. See, Google Maps, I don't know if you can see that. So it's tedious to use, so it's a hassle. I only use Google Maps when I need it anyway, so the fact that now it's harder to use is a bit of a pain. But as I said, my smartphone, it's still with me. It still has Wi-Fi if I'm in a Wi-Fi area, so I can still like just quickly look something up there if I need it and take some screenshots. So for practical purposes, I can still access that. And yes, if I don't have Wi-Fi and I really need to know, this little guy will not let me down. I also miss, what do I miss? I don't remember. That's right, I remember now. Like I didn't just read it off my page. Okay, so I also miss my banking app. I also miss my banking app. Oh, yes, excuse me. I got a message. See, interrupting my life. Oh, yay, happy message. Oh, don't phone anyone. Oh, this is a complicated little device actually. it's kind of got a lag. So you press something twice because you're like, oh, it hasn't happened. And then it is happening. Anyway, oh, that's a nice message. And now I've closed my phone, done. Anyway, where was I? Okay. The other app that I miss having at my fingertips is my banking app. Again, I can get it online on this little guy, but oh my gosh, have you tried navigating the internet on this phone screen with like this little up, down, side, enter thing? It's really hard and tedious, so I don't do it more than I absolutely have to. But as I say, this little guy won't let me down, so in a real emergency, if I needed to move some money, I could. I just have to, you know, stand in the corner for 15 minutes while I navigated through pages. One more thing that I do miss about having a smartphone is sending GIFs. I really love sending GIFs. I mean, I can receive GIFs with this little thing, but I've got no idea how to send them. And oh, they're so fun. GIFs? GIFs? Now, as far as my eyesight goes, I would have thought such a dramatic life change would have had equally dramatic eyeball results. And it hasn't really. I mean, okay, so before I got rid of my smartphone, my eye measurements. Now, if you don't know what eye measurements are, so, okay, you get your computer screen. Maybe I can use this. Let's see. It's here, it's right here. Up you come. All right. Okay, so you get your computer screen. This is if you have myopia, so
100%.
Oh,
Connected to
lovely. Thank you. It's my Bluetooth speaker waking up. Great. There's this eyesight calculator. You probably can't see it. I'll just take a screenshot of it probably and overlay this. Put the link below in case you're interested in trying this yourself. There's the word focus in the middle of the screen, and you get close to it and you move back until it gets blurry. And just as it gets blurry, just on that edge between clear and blurry, you get you take measure and you measure the distance between the screen and your eye. And that's your measurements. And that can be converted into diopters, which is like the measurements that they use for glasses. So for example, my diopters are like 3.0 in one eye and 2.5 diopters in the other. That's my prescription. So anyway, my measurements before doing any of this, like the first measurements I ever took when I found out about EndMyopia and Drake Steiner and the reduced lens method. If you're interested in these things and learning more, I'll put links down below. My first measurements were 39 centimeters in my right eye, which is my better eye, and I think about 32.5 in my left eye. And over the time of measuring that, that's fluctuated up and down a lot. So often it would be even as low as 36 in this eye, but you know, on like my very first measurement was 39. And so now, after going a month without a smartphone, really, and without this intense use of a smartphone anyway, like really dramatically dropped, my measurements pretty consistently now for my right eye are 41 centimeters. So it doesn't sound a lot, 39 to 41 centimeters over, well, I've been doing this for probably, when did I start? Late as August? Not sure. But now it's the beginning of February, so I don't know. I might have been doing this for 5 months now. You think 2 centimeters of improvement, that's pretty slim. But actually for most of that time, like as I said, that sometimes it would go down, my vision distance was 36 centimeters, and I think that was when I had ciliary spasm. So ciliary spasm, well, your ciliary muscle is the muscle around the lens inside your eye that contracts to make your lens bulge so that you can see up close. And if you do a lot of up close work, that muscle, which is meant to usually be relaxed and just contract for a little while you do things, like it's like warp drive, it's for short bursts only. If you're doing a lot of close-up work, that ciliary muscle has to hold this tight position for a long time, and it can kind of like cramp up and not release. And I think when I had the 36 centimeter measurements, that was my ciliary muscle in spasm. So 39 centimeters would have been me without ciliary spasm before. So the fact that now I have given my eyes a solid month with drastically reduced screen time has given my eyes at long last the opportunity to start correcting. I think having given my eyes this time not to be in spasm, my eyeballs have finally started their long journey home to perfect vision. So actually 2 centimeters of improvement, probably just over the last 4 to 5 weeks, maybe 6, after months of just kind of hovering, is a pretty big deal. And any improvement in your eyesight is a pretty big deal when before that, all that your eyesight was doing was deteriorating. So it might not be a huge change in numbers. I'm so excited to know that I'm finally giving my eyes what they need to improve. It is what they needed, and I'm gonna keep going. And it might feel like a long time, but to be real, like, my worst eye was at -3 diopters, and that is so much better than some other people's starting position. Like, there are people who would love to be at -3 diopters, so I'm not gonna start complaining now. Besides this change in screen time, the only thing that I'm doing particularly differently in my life in order to help improve my vision is making sure I'm not wearing glasses when I do close-up vision. So either I swap from my full, well, not even full prescription, my current glasses that I'm using all the time, down to lower diopter glasses, so less strong. But if I don't have them handy, I'll just put my glasses on my head, because I can see for 40 centimeters pretty clearly. So most close-up work isn't less than 40 centimeters. Anyway, that's me, a little bit of EndMyopia stuff at the end, but that's why I got rid of my smartphone in the first place. So you have to hear about that in my smartphone journey, because that is all in all the point for me. If you've done this, let me know if the same thing happened for you. Like, I'd love to hear from you if you've done something like this and what your results were, what you felt, or if you're interested in doing something like this too, let me know, like, why you want to do it, and talk to me. Anyway, I'm gonna leave it there because that was a bit of a ramble today. Just quick update. So please, if you like this video, could you like this video? It really helps me out. And if you want, you might like to consider subscribing to get weekly videos from me. Thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye. Oh wow, perky.